Under Night In-Birth is a 2D fighting game developed by Japanese developer French Bread. It's a 4-button fighter with A, B, and C buttons being attack buttons generally corresponding to light, medium, and heavy. Your D button is a button for special actions such as doing an aggressive hop that the game calls an assault, shielding enemy attacks, rolling, or charging your grid. We'll touch on what grid is later. In Under Night, you can cancel your A, B, and C attacks into each other in any order. In most games where you can cancel normal attacks, generally you can only cancel them in the order of A, B, C. But in Under Night, you can go from C to A, up to B, and then back to C again with no penalty. You can cancel B buttons and C buttons into A buttons as well to achieve better frame data. This is called rebeating, and it sounds complex, but believe me, it becomes natural very quickly, and with some practice, it's very intuitive. Each character also has their own flavor of special attack, with an A version, B version, and C version that costs 100 meter, as well as a move called a force function. Force functions can be anything from a dodge, movement tool, special move enhancer, to just another attack. These force functions are different from normal specials in that they cost grid. So, what is grid? Grid is a system mechanic unique to Under Night, which is conveyed through the gauge on the bottom center of the screen. Those diamonds are each one block of grid, and the circle is the grid cycle. Grid is gained or lost through actions taken during the fight, and when a cycle ends, whoever has the most grid wins the cycle and enters a state called Vorpal. When in Vorpal, your damage is increased by 10% and you unlock a move called Chain Shift, which is done by double tapping your D button. Chain shifting is extremely powerful and will freeze the screen for about 40 frames, which is slightly longer than half a second. During this freeze, you can assess what your opponent is doing and act accordingly. Chain Shift also grants meter when it's used, and it can be used to cancel attacks, meaning that by having access to Chain Shift, you can turn unsafe moves into moves that are plus on block, gain meter while doing it, and consistently threaten your opponent with the ability to freeze the game momentarily and react to whatever they're trying to do. This is incredibly powerful, and this is why grid is important to fight for. A few ways, but not all, to gain grid are moving forward, charging, assaulting, blocking while not in Vorpal, successfully shielding, and breaking a throw. A few ways, but not all, you lose grid are by moving backwards, getting hit, being thrown, blocking while in Vorpal, and using a force function. Grid cycles last 13 seconds. However, new to UNISC, the cycle can be accelerated by charging or shielding, so it's generally going to be slightly shorter than 13 seconds now. Throws in Under Night are faster than any strike, and they'll hit on the 4th frame. You throw an opponent by hitting A and D at the same time, and throws are broken by pressing A and D when you're being thrown. There's a 12-frame window to break throws. If you're thrown while in block stun, you'll also see a gold ring appear. This is called a gold throw. Gold throws do slightly less damage than normal throws and have a much larger break window. So why would you ever want to use them? Well, if you know someone is trying to break a throw, you can strike them, then gold throw. If they attempted to break when you did a strike, they'll block the strike and be locked out of throw breaking, so you'll guarantee get a throw. This is a more advanced technique called TRM, throw, reject, miss. So it's not important to learn as a new player, but it's good to know that it exists so that when you do get gold thrown and go, oh, I broke that, you understand why you really didn't break that. Shielding in Under Night is very important to understand. There are two shields, blue shield and green shield. Blue shield is what happens when you shield while not in block stun. Green shield is what happens when you try to shield and are in block stun. A blue shield will swing the grid bar in your favor, push the opponent back further, and reduce your block stun by 3 frames. A green shield adds block stun to your character, but guarantees that while you're in this block stun, your next hit will be a blue shield. Green shielding is a good way to assert yourself on defense if the opponent is using gapless or multi-hitting moves, but if you're thrown while you're in a green shield block stun, or while you're trying to use a blue shield, you will become grid broken. When grid broken, you have 0 grid, cannot gain more, cannot assault, cannot shield, cannot roll, and if the cycle ends, you are guaranteed to lose the cycle. You can recover from grid break by using Veil Off, a universal reversal that costs at least 100 meter and puts you in a powered up state where you deal 20% more damage, EX moves cost less meter, and you have access to your super no matter how much meter amount you have left, but your meter is slowly drained the whole time you're in this state. Veil Off will remove an opponent's Vorpal state if you hit them, but it's very punishable on block, so if it gets baited, you're pretty much dead. If you are in Vorpal, and only if you are in Vorpal, you can use Veil Off when hitting an opponent, and this will launch them, allowing for a way to deal high damage at the end of combos. There is more I could mention, but this is supposed to be a crash course, so I want to keep it short. UNISC has rollback netcode and is available on PlayStation and PC through Steam. I will also link the Mizumi Wiki, which has lots more info about the game in greater detail, as well as links to the Discords where you can find matches with other players. I will also link some videos and a doc made by the player Mo Sin. Mo is a very strong player residing in Europe who regularly places top 8 at any tourney he goes to, both in Europe and North America. He's a really friendly guy, and if you see him spreading some of his wisdom, it'd be good to take note.